Hi everyone, great to see you again. Today I am going to look at the inputs and outputs of the tasks in the knowledge area, elicitation and collaboration. So sit tight, get ready, and let's quickly run through those. Let me share my screen with you. That's great. So let's now have a recap of elicitation and collaboration, but looking at the inputs and outputs of the tasks. So just to remind you, yes, here is the BABOK guide structure. We are specifically looking at the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area, which is part of the core content of the BABOK guide. Now, just to remind you that we have already dived really deep into the knowledge area itself. So we actually already covered all of the tasks and elements within the week 2 lessons. So have a watch the part 1 and part 2 of those lessons prior to trying to understand this lesson, simply because I believe it will make a lot more sense if you do it that way. Okay, so let's get stuck in. Yes, you might be brand new to the study group, or you may not have heard of us before. So I'm running a BABOK free study group for anybody around the world to join. There are more than 30 training videos and study notes and quizzes, everything packaged into a 6 weeks exam preparation program. And all of that is free. Now, you also receive, when you join us and you become part of our group, you receive discount coupons and discount offers that's absolutely exclusive to this group. So join us. It would be great to also share my knowledge with you. And yes, I am a CBAP certified business analyst and trainer. So I've got a lot of experience to share with you, and I hope that that adds value. And of course, we've got a fantastic BABOK Facebook group, private and exclusive. So when you join the study group, visit baexcellence.com and we will also invite you to join the Facebook group. Okay, let's now get stuck into this video. So just to recap, the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area consists of 5 different tasks. You've got prepare elicitation, conduct elicitation, confirm elicitation results, communicate business analysis information, and manage stakeholder collaboration. So let's firstly look at the purpose of prepare for elicitation, just to remind ourselves what this task is essentially trying to achieve. So the goal of this task is to understand the scope of the elicitation activity, select appropriate techniques, and plan for or procure appropriate supporting materials and resources. So if we now step back and look at, so what do we need in order to execute this particular task? And those 2 things that are the inputs is needs and stakeholder engagement approach. So if you think about it, when you are starting to plan for elicitation, it is important for you to have an idea of what the needs are. So although we'll be doing a lot of diving into the specifics of the needs and formulate requirements and identify requirements during the elicitation, we have to have a general idea of what this is about in order to guide our preparation. So in terms of the BABOK guide, they are saying that it guides the preparation in terms of the scope and the purpose of elicitation activities. Elicitation can be used to discover the needs, but in order to get started, there must be some need that exists, even if it has not been fully elicited or understood. So that's why needs is a specific input into this task. Now, the other input that's actually quite important is the stakeholder engagement approach. And you remember in our previous knowledge area, business analysis, planning and monitoring, we had a task stakeholder engagement approach. And there was an output for that as well. Now, this is now driving or playing the role of an input into our elicitation preparation activities, because we need to understand the stakeholders' communication and collaboration needs. So it helps us to plan. Like, for example, if you have a team of stakeholders that is dispersed across many different geographical locations, that will certainly have an impact into how you plan to elicit information. You will most likely have to think about virtual ways or any of those kind of remote elicitation techniques, or the techniques that's suitable to remote locations. So that's just another reason or example as to why this is an important input. Now, from an output perspective, this is simply and easy to remember. If you've done preparation for elicitation, you now end up having an elicitation activity plan. So this is simply what you'll be using in order to define the logistics, the scope of the elicitation activity, select the techniques that you decided you'll use, and any supporting materials that you'll need. So this plan will then become your blueprint almost as for your elicitation activities coming up. So if you look at this once again, inputs and outputs, they are actually very logical and they make a lot of sense. So it's easy for you to remember. Okay, let's dive straight into the next one. So conduct elicitation. This is to draw out or explore and identify information relevant to the change. So this is, if you remember, all about actually doing that elicitation activity that we've just prepared for. Okay, so from an input and output perspective, very straightforward. So for an input, we've got the elicitation activity plan. As you can imagine, we need to know what is the plan for elicitation in order to be able to execute the elicitation. And this will include the plan elicitation activities and techniques, activity, logistics, for example, date and the time, location, resources, agenda, and the scope of the elicitation activity and available sources of background information. So it's really a critical input into this particular task. And then from an output perspective, also very easy to remember because you've had your elicitation session, so you would be ending up with some elicitation results. And in this case, it is unconfirmed elicitation results. So it's really just the output information that you managed to get as part of that particular elicitation activity. All right, so now let's delve into the next one. Confirm elicitation results. So if you remember with this task, this is all about making sure that the information that was gathered during an elicitation session, that it's accurate and consistent with other information. So from an input and output perspective, it would be easy to remember that you need the elicitation results that is unconfirmed. So all of the output that you managed to gather from your elicitation session as one of the inputs that, or simply actually the main input into this particular task of confirming the elicitation results. And then the outputs, this is the idea is that you've now confirmed that all of the information that you captured during your elicitation activities are in fact correct and reflects the needs of the stakeholders that participated. So now your elicitation results changes its status from unconfirmed to confirmed. So also, I hope that makes a lot of sense to you. Okay, so now let's have a look at the next task. So here we've got communicate business analysis information. Now this is really just to ensure stakeholders have a shared understanding of business analysis information. So what would be the inputs and outputs? Here, in terms of the inputs, if you want to communicate business analysis information, surely the business analysis information needs to be one of the inputs that goes into this activity. And then stakeholder engagement approach is also an input because you need to know how to communicate with your particular stakeholder group. And if you recall, during the stakeholder engagement approach definition, we worked out, so how do we plan to communicate information to our stakeholders as it becomes available? So that's why these two really makes a lot of sense as inputs. Just a note for you from a business analysis information perspective and a bit of a reminder. Remember that the terminology business analysis information is in fact any kind of business analysis information that was gathered, whether it's formal work or informal notes. Business analysis information is an all-encapsulating term for any business analysis type information. Now, I might refer you back to your core techniques or your primary key terms in chapter 2, I believe, of the BABOK guide, just to refresh your memory as to the definition. Okay, so the output of this particular task is business analysis information communicated. So it's interesting how we've got a status here, but it makes sense. This is really just to distinguish that we've now actually had the activity that we agreed in the stakeholder approach, how we will be communicating our business analysis information. We've done the communication, and all of the business analysis information now has a status of being communicated, and that becomes the output of this particular task. Okay, now let's have a look at the very last task of this knowledge area. So manage stakeholder collaboration. Now, you'll remember that this task is primarily about encouraging stakeholders to work towards a common goal, in a nutshell. So let's look at the inputs. Again, we've got the stakeholder engagement approach as an input here because it describes the types of expected engagement with stakeholders and how they might need to be managed. So this is the information that we consider during our planning stage as to how we will be doing the stakeholder collaboration and what we expect stakeholders to do. Now, business analysis performance assessment. This is an interesting input into this particular task, but essentially this is about just having that information about how effective is the business analysis tasks that's being executed in the context of stakeholder collaboration. So let's know that information when we start considering this task of managed stakeholder collaboration. And then the output here is stakeholder engagement. So if you've done your task effectively, and remember this task, as with a lot of the other tasks we've discussed, they are iterative and we do them all the time. So it's not like you've got one big output that is kind of the beginning and the end. But in terms of stakeholder engagement here, what we're talking about is generally your stakeholders are willing to be engaged in business analysis activities and are happy to interact with business analysts in order to get the work done. But like I said, this is an ongoing activity, and in a way, these inputs and outputs are fairly abstract and conceptual. Okay, so those are all of the inputs and outputs to consider that goes into the tasks within the knowledge area, elicitation and collaboration. Okay, so let's have a quick flash quiz to see how well you paid attention during this video. We've just got 3 short questions. Needs are an output of prepare elicitation. Is that true or false? False, of course. Need is an input into prepare for elicitation. Second question. Stakeholder engagement approach is an input to communicate business analysis information. Is that true or false? 3, 2, 1. Answer is true. And then the third question, elicitation results unconfirmed is an output of the confirmed elicitation results. Is that true or false? Hopefully you know that just instantly. That's false. Elicitation results confirmed is an output of this particular task. Okay, so over to you as always. Raise your questions about this topic in the Facebook group. Give us some examples of inputs and outputs and how it plays a part in your world. And of course, the exam is our goal. So we would like to pass that CBAP or CCBA or ECBA. So if you can help others with anything that you've learned or anything that you'd like to ask, participate in the Facebook group and ask your questions. Don't be shy. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. As you know, I'm Esther Lessing, and I am the founder and director of Business Analysis Excellence. So I look forward to sharing more videos with you within the coming days and weeks. Thank you.